Are you on a forklift?
Yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a
Hey,
tutti.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the AJC, and it's another classic AJC times Bianconeri's own show. I welcome Ale to the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Good. Like we said backstage, Inter we saw Inter dropping points, so good for now. Good for now.
There you go. Yeah, it's always nice to see them drop some points. We know what's coming. We just can't slip up tomorrow, and we will talk about that. I'm sure there's a lot going on, not just with Juventus, but in terms of the league in general. And we're going to have some fun tackling all of that. Again, we share a lot of the same community, and it's fantastic. But for those of you who maybe are not subscribed to the Bianconeri Zone, head over to their channel, show some love, subscribe, all right, and check out all the great work that they are doing as well. Now, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into this. So first things first, I always call it, one of those amici di nessuno moments because you can figure out what's going on and how wrong everything that was happening last year was. But obviously, Serie A trying to come in with a Super League clause. You've got Serie A not being able to take advantage of the growth decree because the Italian government scrapped that extension to February. So that's no longer yesterday, as of yesterday. And all the while, you've got Inter in massive debt. All right. And some deals. Yeah, there's some deals that look very familiar to things that Juventus was put through the ringer for. But again, not all things are level because the only thing was we were talking about going against the spirit of the mercato, whereas even though these other sides are doing it, they're not talking about it or caught on wiretaps and not publicly traded. But in the end, it was all a joke, all a farce. But we're going to start off with the growth decree being scrapped. Okay? And your thoughts on that one, Ale?
Um, I mean, it's not good. It is not good. It's a decision that is not up to the federation or the club. I think
Yeah.
people need to also understand that basically, like they didn't make that decision. It's at the top, like at the top of the country, they made that decision. However, I'm not sure what the decision. Like, I don't know I don't know the basis of that decision. I don't really get that because they're going to lose money by doing that. They are. I saw the news on the Rai, and they even spoke about that, not on the sport part of the Rai, so it's something big, and they talk about it's giving the Italian youngsters a chance and all those things. Yes, like they're going to be forced, but it's not going to be for the better of the team because I think they magically think now the players they already have are going to turn into talents. Like that's not going to happen. Like players, clubs who have talents, they're going to use them. I just think that like Italy as a country, they don't have a lot of talented players. Like even if you look at the youngsters we have, it's Fagioli, it's Minetti. Like Sule is not Italian, Yildiz is not Italian, Junior is not Italian, Barrenechea is not, like they're not. Heusen is not Italian. Like they're not Italian, quote unquote talents. So I'm not sure where they're going with this. It's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. Like not the clubs are screwed. Now, when the news came out, I said if we get back into the Champions League consistently, or in Europe, let's call it Europe for now, as we should, uh, compared to the other teams, we will be less impacted, if that makes sense, because we generate more money. We have our own stadium; it's ours. Um, we just generate more money than other clubs. We have more money. Like if everything returns to normal, we have more money, and also we have a crop of good youngsters. And Allegri, funnily enough, mentioned that on his presser. The question is, how are you going to use the youngsters? You can use them in two ways. Like you can sell them, big plus Valenza, that's going to help, or they're going to be key players as starters or in the squad, meaning you don't need to spend 30 35 million euros to bring these players in because you already got them for free or for 2 million, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. In that regards, also the wages are extremely low for these players to begin with. So it's good, but now more than ever, it's key that these youngsters actually develop and become key players. So that's maybe the upside. Like it sounds good on paper, but in reality, we're not sure, because if we are also honest, the only player in the team consistently has been Miretti, and he has not been improving. The other players who are improving are not doing that at the club. So it's not a given that Sule and Barnechea come back and they do the same thing. Like we don't know what's going to happen with Yildiz, how he will grow. So on paper, it sounds better for us, but in reality, it's all guessing. The fact is, it's going to impact us massively as well. Like it is. Like Rabiot, for example, that deal is not going to happen. And some might say that's a good thing. Wage-wise, I would agree. But these type of deals are not going to happen anymore. They're just not going to happen.
I think it's going to impact a lot of the obviously smaller sides in Italy a lot more. It might even also impact some of the big ones, but not to the degree it will hurt the smaller sides. Again, once we get back into Europe. And obviously there's a big statement out today that's being reported that Exor would be willing to take on the capital increase as their own, up to 80 million euros to round out that capital increase. We know Calvo a month and a half ago stated in a meeting there that the cleanup was going to be done at the end of this season. And I think we're going to be okay with, in terms of the blueprint's been laid now on kind of how we need to work. The youngsters are great, and integrating them, everybody's got their own thoughts and feelings towards that. For me, I've been a little bit vocal that the problem isn't the youngsters or integrating them and what we're doing right now, because I think everything is actually fine. Sure, we'll get to Max Allegri, and one of my only criticisms I have kind of for him this season, but for the most part, we're treating it right. It's not a problem for me. The bigger problem is the key guys struggling and not really being the key guys, and some of those guys that have been around a while not pulling enough of their weight, I see as more of an issue. In terms of how we're going to get kind of around this, yeah, there will be deals that are affected, whatnot, but if we are doing business properly and whatnot, we should be able to kind of at least maintain and keep things steady moving forward. The young project, next gen and everything, if you look at some of our links as of late too, there's a lot of young talent we are after. If we finalize the Adzic move as well, that's another highly touted youngster. They still are pressing this next gen thing, which, like you mentioned, is going to help a lot of things, even if they're bargaining chips, which can be the difference in making up that money to kind of pick up for the tax savings. So it's, for me, we're in better shape than a lot of these other sides that don't have the benefit of a lot of these young talents that we can move, that we can work in deals. Atalanta does a great job scouting, but at the end of the day, they're pulling these guys off their actual roster to move them and everything. So they do have to just keep the wheels always moving, but they're doing a good job. It's going to be interesting to see. It's just another, it's another way that in Italy they kind of hurt their own economy, hurt their own growth and everything. And then when you get to the league standpoint, it's just like clockwork, man. All the time you get Serie A coming out with this the clause that is a no Super League clause that for 24-25 registration, teams will sign on to by registering. And obviously there's a lot of arguments right now going back and forth that yes, they can do it because they are their own federation. It is not FIFA, it's not UEFA. But then of course you have those stating, well, no, because you're in the European Union, you're also under the FIFA umbrella as a federation. So you in turn cannot prevent these clubs from doing this. But for me, again, it's the mere fact that, and we know because Gravina has become Sefrin's lapdog now, that he's pulling his strings as according to Sefrin, but there is no way, thinking straight, you could possibly, if you had the best intentions for this league, think that this was the right move. because, again, the growth decree is now gone. Your TV ratings are down and they continue to sink. You have your top club, your Champions League finalist last season in 800 million euros debt with 10% interest, maybe 12% interest. You have all this going on. There is no way and no visible signs of any increased revenue coming. They turned down what most of the top club owners wanted in terms of a TV deal and working out their own TV production to boost things. And they turned it down because a year and 2 months wasn't enough time to do it. This is an absolute joke. I don't think they can do it anyways. It's going to fall in line with that monopoly thing. But the mere suggestion that you would think this is a good move is false in my court. And I've been taking heat for it. Everybody's saying I don't know anything about the good of football because I think UEFA needs to be pushed. We need this challenge. Even if Super League doesn't go down, I say this fight needs to happen because clubs need to be getting more than just the organizer. It's not right. You shouldn't be winning Champions League and not be making as much as some of the teams just barely scraped it through relegation in another top 5 league. You have to find a way. They have to do something to shut down these teams that would want to do that when you're doing nothing on your own as a federation to help them. It's crazy to me. It's asinine. Your thoughts on that clause?
It's not a shock. It's not a shock that was coming. I don't know if it's legal or if it's illegal. It feels like it's legal because they are tied to the UEFA, and they can, I believe, can say like we're tied to the UEFA. If you want to play, if you don't want to play for UEFA, you cannot play for us. Like maybe it's legal. I don't know. However, it's not gonna happen because let's say push comes to like it happens, and Juve says, you know what, I'm not signing that. Alcon says we're not signing that. They can say we can kick you out, but DAZN and Sky will be knocking on the door 10 minutes later and tell you the money we're giving you, that's going down, because they will have things in there. Because if Juve don't play Champions League, like things happen in this contract, there are things like Juve needs to be primetime games so many times. Like all these things are set in stone. If you don't, like I think Sky has a Champions League rights, or DAZN still in it. No, I think it's Sky. They probably have clauses like if this team doesn't make it and all those things, they will come knocking on the door and they're like, we're not paying what we agreed on. Like if Juve is not in the league, nobody's watching that. We're not going to pay that. So it's not going to happen. And also the way things are going with all those things, if Juve says, I don't sign it, I think Napoli will be like, we're not signing that. Lotito will be like, not signing. And then what? What is Gravina going to do? Start a league with no Napoli, no Juve, no Lazio? It's not going to happen. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I'm not really worried about that. And even if they sign that, they will find a way out of it, maybe in a year's time. So I'm not really worried about that. It smells like desperation mode. Like that's what it is. It smells like a very weak league, big league. Like I don't want to put disrespect on it, but De Laurentiis is the mouthpiece of the league. And I think that's all you need to know at this point, how bad it is. Because he says things like, if you read his statements every single day, you're like, he's speaking like I will speak on a stream after a game. And I can do that because I don't hold a position. I don't hold a high top level position. The way he speaks, I can feel it's not serious behind the scenes. Like it's absolutely not serious at all. They all laughed at Agnelli years ago. And now they're sitting here and looking around and being like, okay, this is really bad. This is really sad. This is sad. It is absolutely a bad look on everything. If the league was strong enough, if you had top level, players in the game, they would have had something to say. Even if that decision came from the top they made yesterday, they would have a say in it to not make that happen, basically, and keep that law rolling. I really believe that, because you don't see these things happening in England in the Premier League where they shoot themselves in the foot. They don't. They actually try to boost it. over here, or like over here in Italy, like I said, it's a mess. Like it's dinosaurs at the top. Gravina is sad. It's sad what's happening with him, but it's obvious like he sold his soul. He got his Euros with, I don't know, what is it? With organize it with Turkey, I guess. It's
Yeah.
like he got what he want. He got what he wanted, but the league is bleeding. It's bleeding, and nobody is stopping it. Like every single day, you hear something else. Then you have De Laurentiis saying we need 14 teams. Then the other day, it's 16 teams, and then it's this, and then it's that. And I'm like, okay, are you gonna sit down and actually make something happen? Start with A instead of yelling A, B, C, D every single day. And I'm like, nothing is changing. You're all yelling, you're all disagreeing, and nothing is going to change. And absolutely nothing is going to change, by the way. Like, this is the way. And that's why I think Agnelli was banking his hopes on the Super League, not just only because UEFA control everything and they want to control a lot, of their own money. I think Agnelli believed that it's done. Like, I'm not going to get anything done in Serie A with the people like De Laurentiis and Lotito, like being against everything, and now they're sitting there and being like, okay, what is this? I think he knew that if I want to save this club in Europe on the biggest stage, this is a way to go, because this is not going to happen in Serie A. Look at Spain, like Germany, like they're good teams, but like they have even worse TV rights. It's not going to take long because Serie A is going down rapidly, but they have been struggling also for a while. And I'm not shocked about all these things. Like the Super League thing, it is what it is. Like what will happen will happen. I'm not really too fussed about it. I think it's more about pushing the UEFA to hand out more things, because it's all messy at this moment in time. This team says I'm out. This team puts out a statement. Man U puts out a statement. Arsenal puts out a statement. I'm like,
the thing is that, and I've been saying this for a while. It's just like I said right before we got into the segment. This fight has to happen. Everybody is talking about, oh, it's just about money, whatever. It's just about money right now as it stands. The problem is, would you rather get your club making more of it to help them, to boost them when nothing's happening right at home? Of course Agnelli was going to look. Agnelli was always ahead of the curve. He always was. He knew what was going down. He called this out. Everybody laughed. Everybody said whatever they had to say. Here we are, as predicted. The thing is that I said this, these are just many little battles that are going to happen along the way, but it's going to be a war, and it's going to go on for quite some time. Teams are not in a position, many of them, I feel, to actually fight this. So even in Serie A, let's say, who's going to be that first team that says, no, I'm not going to sign this? Because you might be taking a risk. We don't know if there's some protection with certain sides also that came from UEFA. And we don't know if any, would you rule them out from putting under the table money at some clubs to say, hey, I need you to denounce Super League? I wouldn't put it past them. And if you got Bayern, you pretty much have the entire German league. They do everything together. If you've got your big guys in England, they're going to all stick together. That's what they always do. There's a reason Man City's 115 whatever just disappeared with FFP and whatnot, and you're not really hearing much. They do things in a very different manner, like you touched on. France, well, we know who's his right-hand man, also Sefrin there. It's going to be challenging. A lot of these teams aren't in the financial state to really make that fight, so it's very, very interesting. Somebody's going to have to take the lead. I don't really know what's going to happen, but it's just going to be a pissing match back and forth for a long time. And I said, if UEFA's actually smart, if they are smart, which I know they're not, and I know Sefrin is not, he would be looking at some type, and I said this when the news first broke out, if he was smart, he would have looked at some type of merger, some type of connection with A22, with these sponsors, if it is JP Morgan, whatever, that wants to come in and take some of this cash, take some of these funds, make your competition enhance it while still being able to give these clubs more, which they should have been getting for quite some time, and look at a balance. But they're not smart enough. They're egotistical, they're corrupt, and they're crooked. So this is going to be a fight that just keeps going and going and going. But this latest step, it can't be serious from looking at it at a league standpoint. It's literally just Gravina being Seferin's lapdog. That's all it is. It's a shame, but it's going to be interesting, and at least it's making for some entertainment because who knows what's going to happen and what the next step is. But Gravina, there you go. Serie A, no Super League clause. But now we get to ourselves, and we got a lot to worry about before next year's registration comes down. The latest is the winter mercato. What is going to happen? We spoke on our last episode, and there wasn't a lot of confidence if we could potentially go through with nobody coming in. Now, we're a few days away from this window opening. Obviously, naturally, rumors intensify and everything like that. Have you changed your stance, Ale, on what you think is going to happen in the mercato?
So initially, I thought, nothing is really gonna happen, but we need help. There's no ifs and buts. We absolutely need some help. And I got to a point where I'm like, okay, nothing's really gonna happen. But the last couple of days, the news picked up, and it's not one name; it's a couple of names. Meaning, what I think it means that the club is actually actively trying to bring in players, because I don't think they have a choice. That's one. You start the season with more players than you have now. So you lost Fagioli and Pogba. So that for only that reason, you have no choice. But like I said, I think the club is doing better than they expected. Not me. I said we were going to be in this position. That was my prediction at this point. I think the club is a bit surprised that they're in it, if I'm being honest with you. And at that point, I think they need to back Allegri. Now, Inter drop points. So if you win tomorrow or today, whatever, it's back to a real. It's still a title race. Even if it's 5 points or 4 points, it's a title race. But if you win, it's 2 points. You're in it. It's January. You're in it. You're absolutely in it. What do you like? What are you going to do as a club? Are you going to sit there and be like, we're cruising to top 4, so it's all good? Or are you going to sit there and be like, this might be a golden opportunity for us to capitalize? And who knows how this will pan out, and we might win it. And, that means a lot for this club. After so many years, financially, that will be a boost. Everything, it will be just a massive move. Trying to sign players, it will be a massive boost. What it means for the team, potentially moving forward, the how do you want to say that? The knowledge that, we can win stuff as well. All these things, I think they're sitting there now, and they acknowledge that, besides help, we can try to push for a real title. If we'll win it or not, who knows? And the names being linked, that's maybe up for debate. If we will push, because the names that have been linked with us to come in January, the realistic ones, I don't think they're gonna make the difference, if that makes any sense, because it feels like we're trying to get backups, and I'm not sure why we're getting backups for players that already have backup. That's my only issue at this moment in time, going off the links.
Yeah, if I'm looking at everything, I think we could see it from the summer mercato going into the season. Juve, for me, had zero plans on doing anything this season. And all about cleanup, all about getting the funds right. Their biggest thing this season, and we've seen with contract extensions, Bremer's was finalized, bringing the amortization annually down a little over 2 million, which is a good piece of business. His value overall remains at 41 million euros, and he's obviously surpassed that. So at least if somebody wants him, they're going to have to pay up, and he's locked down. And again, the cost goes down annually. We've got other moves they're looking to do extension-wise. I think they had no intentions of picking anybody up going into this season, especially only one comp. The Pogba Fagioli thing is what's brought it up because we have got some injuries, and like you said, we're there. We're right there. So Inter drawing level with Genoa today, 1-1. They're now 5 points ahead of us. We can make it 2 with a victory over Roma tomorrow. For me, and that we'll get to that matchup and everything, how we feel about going into it. For me, we can't slip up. We got to capitalize.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think they are gonna, just look for a little protection. This is where I get into what I said. I still have a criticism of Max because I've been hard on the players, and I still stand behind that. Like I said earlier on the show, I think the young guys aren't a problem. I have no problem with them and the integration. I don't want to be hard on, Ameretti, who has had a lot of opportunities. It hasn't really panned out. I think it's fine that he's getting those opportunities. For me, I'm going to look at the other guys. Rabiot, I've been, I know I'm in the minority here, but I don't think he's anywhere near what he was last season. And I think,
agree 100%.
Yeah, and I think that Monza game was the Rabiot we actually need consistently, but you don't get that. And for me, that's more of an issue than the young guys and their lack of minutes or the minutes they're getting. We need these guys to be the guys. Danilo coming back, and for me, I think I'd leave Rugani back there because he was doing a better job. And these are issues we can't have with our guys. Locatelli, he shows us what he can do with the Azzurri, the match when he returned, and then we haven't seen that Locatelli again since. I get it, rib injury. They're a bitch. They're a nightmare. You and I spoke when he first had that. We had one of our shows around that time, and we talked about how nagging that is, and it just goes on and on and on. But we need better from these guys. I think in the mercato, I think we might be picking up somebody, and by all the reports we're hearing and links, it's most likely going to be a loan pickup, and they're trying to avoid a commitment. They're trying to avoid obligation. So for me, they're still at a point where they don't really want to do anything. They'll do something if it's available and it doesn't require commitment. So these Sudakov rumors and Fabrizio Romano saying there's already 35 million on the table, whatnot. Like, I don't see us making any type of move. I talked about playing devil's advocate on a short I did right before we jumped on. Maybe we get a surprise, like you get a loan deal with no obligation at the end of it that they say sure, and maybe they make a sale like on Illing Jr., and they've got a little bit stash that they can put, and maybe they go in on somebody and surprise us, whether it's Sudakov or somebody else. But I highly doubt that. I feel like if we get a name, it's kind of just protection. It's kind of more protection for injuries, if anything. And I don't think it's going to be anyone that really pushes the needle for us. That's how I kind of feel. Sadly. You kind of agree, or do you think we might get a surprise that helps us?
I see where you're coming from. And on my channel, I've said the same thing. Like, if you make a commitment, you need to know who's going to be the coach next season. And if you're still not sure if it's going to be Allegri, if you make a commitment, it needs to be on a player that's young enough, sell on value, and can play for any coach. That's one. Also, you need to know what is the formation next season, because now with Yildiz coming in the team, we'll probably talk about it. It raises a lot of question marks. Just in general, even if Yildiz doesn't come into the team, certain players, they don't flourish in this formation. And certain players look good, but they are not the players that we should be looking, quote unquote, good, if that makes sense. So there are a lot of doubts. I get that. But Phillips, Højbjerg, I said on one of my shows, I said, no, it wasn't on my shows, I was on Twitter, and I said, Nicolucci, he can play at home against Cagliari. I'm not saying all those games, play Frosinone, Salernitana, Genoa. He will be perfectly fine. If you want backup for Locatelli, he will be perfectly fine on those games. And somebody told me, you cry about quality and you want Hans playing who's garbage. I don't think he's garbage. Do I think he has a long-term future at the club? No, I don't think that. However, he's good enough to play against those teams. at home, even away from home. Like no issue, he will be just perfectly fine. So we don't need backup. That's by choice that Allegri plays Locatelli every single week. Basically, that's by choice. Like you brought up Danilo, and he said in his presser, because it was about Kostic as well and Junior. And defensively said we need to be scared to conceding goals again because that's missing. Is it really missing? Because it was all good until you mixed it up. Oh, now I'm gonna start Sandro and bench Gatti and Rugani. Like you mixed it up. Like nothing was missing. It was perfectly fine. What's missing is the consistency. You try to mix it up again. So on that point, I'm like, things can be fixed relatively quickly. We are missing quality midfield. Is as simple as that. Quality in possession, somebody who can drive the ball, make that final pass, be the man, get some goals. That's not McKennie, absolutely not McKennie. On a technical level, like he's a hardworking player, and I appreciate what he's doing this season. But he has obvious limits, and he hit the limit. Like this is who he is, and I appreciate what he's doing. By the way, I'm not calling him out. But on a technical level, we know what he's about. Locatelli, I've said it many times on the show, on your show. I'm still not sold on Locatelli because it's all over the place. It's hot and cold. I don't get it, and I cannot give him the excuse anymore I don't like him in that position, because he came out and he said I can play that position after the Azzurri game. He said I can play it. I'm gonna improve. You're not showing it me. And Rabiot, like you said, he's not playing as good as last season, and he's not that type of midfielder. Like he's not an attacking or like a midfielder is going to create. He's a player who loves to hold on to the ball a bit too long, in my opinion. So we're missing those qualities. So if you tell me we're going to sign Phillips or Højbjerg to that extent, I'm like, that's not going to push us on. It isn't. We need, and I'm not saying you need to sign Samardzic, but we need those type of players. Even Sudakov. Like these are the players that could potentially make the difference because they have something none of our other midfielders have, and we are absolutely lacking. Do I think they will do that? Potentially, yes. Because on Sudakov, it's now or never. If Juntili is that's the guy. That we need him. Even if you're not going to be there, Allegri, whatever, that's him. It's now or never. Because if you don't get him now, it's done. The Premier League clubs will come in. If he qualifies with Ukraine for the Euros, it's absolutely done. Like you cannot afford him anymore. So it's now or never. And it feels like they have been serious about it. They have been serious about it. So I'm holding on to that. That's basically what I'm holding on to. And you never know. Like you said, devil's advocate, maybe, who knows? Maybe we win tomorrow and Jude wakes up and he's like, yeah, that's it. That's coming from our budget next season, 35 million. Because you know what, Sudakov, even next season, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be in that midfield, and a player with his qualities should be in our midfield. By the way, if you really want to compete and you want to move on from the 3-5-2, which I think we all are quote unquote hoping. Just looking at the squad we have, the players we have on loan, it feels more natural to move away from a 3-5-2 and make it work with a different formation. I think everybody kind of agrees on that aspect. For now, it's working, but long term, with the players we have, it doesn't really feel like that. A player like Sudakov, for 35 million, I don't think you're going to get any cheaper. If I'm being completely honest, I don't see in the summer another option that's going to be cheaper, unless somebody knows. Let me know. You can say Fajoli comes back. What then? But at that point, you're not going to sign anyone, but we lack obvious quality in that midfield. We talked about so many times. We lack quality. When I look at Locatelli, inconsistent. Rabiot, at times, is frustrating to see him link up with Kostic because it's very predictable. It's very slow. It's very flat, very flat. And McKennie, hardworking player, but when he reaches a certain point on the pitch, it's sideways, and I'm good with it. Keep it safe, but he's not the guy that's going to play that killer pass, consistently. So I do have hope because it's now or never for Sudakov. And if he's not the main target, obviously we move on, I guess. But from the news that's out there, he feels like he is one of the main targets. And If you're going to spend it in January, in the summer, then why not spend it now when you can potentially push? And if you don't get if you don't win the Scudetto, fine. You were planning to get him in the summer anyways, I guess. What's the problem bringing him in now?
Yeah, and like I said, playing devil's advocate, trying to find a way, and maybe we could be surprised. I hope I'm wrong. I highly doubt it, but the other
I will
names.
ask you this really quick, and I know a different situation. The 1st of January, 2 years ago, if I told you we're going to sign Vlahovic and Zakaria, what would you have told me?
Oh yeah, that one caught everybody off guard. It was completely out of the blue, and I said absolutely no chance. And that's why I say
Same.
I won't
I was
rule
discussing.
anything out. I won't rule anything out. You never know. You never know. And that's why I said maybe, just maybe, we get a surprise and we do get two guys. Maybe they send one of our young guys on loan like Caviglia or Meretti because they can find a way to find a loan without obligation. And maybe they decide they do want to buy and they jump out with a sale, a potentially Ailing Jr. And like I said, have some
Yeah.
funds to dump on Sudakov. Or maybe it's not Sudakov and it's another guy. But I won't rule anything out. I just, like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I have my doubts, but out of some of these options, um, we're hearing today, it was all over the place. Charlie Patino, which I don't think is gonna
No,
happen.
I agree.
Highly doubt that one. Kone, a name to monitor according to Mirko Di Natale, but all we're hearing is Mönchengladbach would not do it in the winter.
Yeah.
And if they did, it would have to be a large sum. And to be honest, that's another profile based on where he plays that I would put some of these other guys ahead of him. So it's just, like I said, who knows what's going to happen in the end? It could be nothing, but we're getting very, very close to the window opening. And my last question to you is, let's say everything remains the same. Okay? Let's say we bring in Sudakov. Let's just use him. Let's say Sudakov or Samardzic come in. What percentage is your confidence at in maybe taking this title if one of those guys comes in, and what confidence are you at if it remains the same?
Okay. So my confidence now is at 25% that we win it. They will win it. I think it's 25 because we find ways. I don't want to jinx it for today, but we find ways to do it, and Inter will drop points. But they are the better team. They have the better squad. If we bring in Surikov or Samarcic, I will go up, I don't know, 60, 50. No, let's say 50. It's 50-50. Because we play once a week. We don't have the games Inter need to play. And obviously, it's Champions League. It's only, but still, twice. And if they qualify again, it's again twice. Like, it takes its toll, with injuries. We don't play once a week. At that point, I say it's 50-50. I really believe it's 50-50 because that's a piece we are missing. That's something we don't have, and it will add a different dimension to what we do. And even if you play a 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it, that's a type of player that can make something happen when you don't really expect it. When now, let's say we're countering and McKennie holds onto the ball and just plays it sideways. Because I get it. Like, that's who he is. Fine. Or Rabiot holds on to the ball a bit too long, and you know what? He plays it to Kostic. Now you have a player who is not going to do that and is going to play it straight to Chiesa, first touch, or straight to Vlahovic. It opens up different ways the way you play, and also in key moments. How many times have we seen a counterattack? And I'm just pulling that out there. The last 2 seasons, and you know that, and you sit back and you're like, how the hell did we mess that up? Too much on the ball, wrong decisions. And I don't blame these players because I know who these players are and what they're capable of and what they cannot do. When you have a player that can actually do that, it opens things up. It really does, 100%. It also opens up things for other players around you. It does, it really does. So I will go up to 50%. I really do. And if I want to choose, if I need to choose one between Samacic and Sudakov, because those are the two names out there, I will pick Sudakov because I think he's more talented from what I've seen. He has more abilities. about him. So I will pick him, but I will go up to 50%. I really do. Especially if we win tonight, it's 2 points, and you tell me we bring him in mid-January, because he's also a player that can go straight into the team. Sudakov, like he's young. He played Champions League. He played high level football. Like he's not somebody you pick up from like Gatti, Frosinone, Serie B. He's not that type of player. He's ready. He can get into the team and he will do a job. I'm 100% convinced about that.
Yeah, I'm higher up as we stand right now also because I feel like, and this is again going back to one of my criticisms, my only criticisms really of Max is that we can try more with who we currently have.
Yeah.
We could have had potentially a few more answers going into this mercato to know a bit better who's going to give us that push, that final piece. We've got Yildiz, who may get the start tomorrow against Roma. But, maybe we just need a tweak in the midfield and you do run a two-man pivot with one advanced player. And maybe it could be Miretti and Yildiz rotating in that spot. Maybe you can use Caviglia more and try Locatelli out there. I don't think that's a be-all, end-all, but a lot of people feel, and it wouldn't have hurt to try it. Would I bank on Locatelli impacting out of the midfield more than McKennie? Yes. I will say yes. So you could still utilize McKennie for his positive attributes at right wing back. And I've said this all season. I like him better at that right wing back role.
I agree.
There's things we could have tried. And even with the guys we have, I still think we're maybe one of these small tweaks away. And the guys just dialing it in a little bit better from feeling more convincing and handling situations better and putting games away. I don't think we're as far off as it might feel. For the percentage, if things remain the same, I'm actually about 60. I'm at about 60% that we can do it, even as things remain. If you bring me one of Samardzic or Sudakov, I could probably go up to like 70, 75% that we could probably do it.
Yeah, I'm not that confident. But I agree with you that what I agree with you is that if we bring one player, we're not that far away mid-season now. If we need to start off again next season, we need more in this team. We do need more, like squad, like depth-wise, or players, youngster that have more experience under, like have more experience like Yildiz, playing more games, and that's an added value going into the season. But right now, I think one player can make a lot of a difference, especially because we play once a week. Like first week of January, we play twice because it's Coppa Italia, twice Sanitana. But other than that, we play once a week, and one player can make a difference. If you like, and when I say one player that adds something we don't have. If you bring in Phillips or Højbjerg, I don't think that will move the needle, because I don't want to see. If you get McKennie out of that midfield and you put Phillips or Højbjerg, I don't think it's going to be a massive difference the way we play, if that makes sense. Like, it's not going to be a massive of a difference at all. So if that's the player you bring in, I will stick with my 25%. I really do. But if it's a player that has the abilities we are lacking, I will go to 50, because I also believe, like, mid-season now, you can make up for it, like, just by grinding it out. You can, like how Milan won the title. The terrible team, like, I'll keep saying it, purely deserves a statue for winning it. Like, that was a horrible team. I don't care what people say. I have a lot of Milan fans over here I see weekly, and they still cannot believe they won it, because that team was horrible. That's not a good team. But he done it. He grinded it out. He found a way, and that's what you can do. That you can do that, and especially mid-season now, almost halfway through. If you win today, and you should be winning, let's say it's 2 points. Why not? Like, why not? Anything can happen. Anything can happen, but you need, like, Allegri needs help. Even if he's stubborn and he sticks with the 3-5-2 without, knowing, just adding a player with more quality, just making something happen. If we have Pogba, by the way, fit Pogba, fit enough Pogba to play a couple of games, I would also be at 50% because that's next level. I'm not saying that's Sudakov, but he will win you a couple of games you're probably not going to win. He will pop up with a goal and assist or play that ball that everybody's like, oh my God, how did he do that? But you know what? That got us a win. But we don't have Pogba. And we will still be playing a 3-5-2. It's just Pogba has so much qualities. He will make it happen. That's what we're missing now, in my opinion. Because when games are tight, Genoa, for example, I was sitting back and I was like, nobody's going to win us this game. Like, I don't see who's going to win this game for us. I don't see it. I don't see anyone in this team when things are really tough that will stand up and be like, I will do it. I will pick this one up. I will do it. People will say Chiesa, not in that position, and you can say, oh, he plays on the left. It's not the same. It's just not the same. It's not the same position. We need somebody in these type of moments that is like, I'm going to make that final pass. I'm going to pick up the ball now, and I'm going to drive that ball. I'm going to pick up a guy. We don't have that in that team. That's what's missing now, in my opinion. Experience in midfield, Højbjerg, experience. Rabiot is an experienced player, isn't he? Like, he's 28, will be 29. Like, won the World Cup, I think. Was he at the World Cup squad? Yeah, he was in the World Cup squad, I think. Or won the Euros, whatever. Won a title, won a cup. Like, he has won stuff. Locatelli won the Euros. They're experienced players. McKennie is not a kid anymore. Like, he played for Schalke, played for Leeds, plays for. There is experience in that midfield. That cannot be the excuse to bring in Højbjerg. We need quality.
I wouldn't.
That's what I'm.
I would not change our setup whatsoever. I know there's a lot saying you change the setup, do this, do that. No, it's too drastic. We make so many.
No, I agree.
We make so many turnovers because of these guys, and it's not planning, it's not tactic, it's not coaching. Literally, they are the ones with the ball at their feet that are missing simple passes. We are set up to protect ourselves from our own deficiencies. Chiesa is a problem not because of any of his doing, but it's because nobody on that team can play him a ball that puts him in 1v1 scenarios or running onto space where a defender has to try and catch him. He's got to do all his work literally just with the ball at his feet, with sometimes a double team coming at him or a triple team, because we cannot distribute the ball from the back, and our defenders, we have them on the ball too much. It comes down to the same thing. We need these guys up top. We're asking a lot from them, but at the same time, they've still had moments between the entire team to make games more comfortable where they've all failed. Gatti, Bremer, Vlahovic, Chiesa, etc. You still need that midfield player to just tip that scale a little bit further. The balance isn't so grossly out of whack. I think we've disrespected certain teams, and it's terrible to watch when we get into that mode. We disrespected Monza, but we got lucky there. You disrespected, you could maybe say you disrespected a couple other sides. You got to stop doing that. How they play on one goal drives me mental. But we need that help in the midfield to take another step. You're not going to bring in a Pogba, but you could bring someone with abilities, some similar traits, obviously not to that level. But that is really ultimately what this team needs. The formation changes that some fans want to see, I really don't think I would do it, man. I wouldn't. Not with this group.
I agree. You know what? I still think we can do it with this. I don't think it's going to be happening mid-season. I think because Allegri is fixated on this, I think it's a no-go to turn it around now mid-season. I think it's just not possible. However, if you see Yildiz play, what are you going to do with him now? Are you going to tell him, Chiesa's fit, you can get 50 minutes maybe every single week? It's tough. You cannot shoehorn in, you cannot put him in this formation. You just can't, because I think Chiesa's already struggling in this formation. You cannot put Yildiz in this formation. And some might say, he needs to wait his turn. But his turn came, and he did well. he should be getting more turns if that makes sense. Are you going to bench Chiesa? That's what I said with the transfers. You need to know what's going to happen next summer as well. Like, what is going to happen formation wise? Is Allegri going to be the coach? Did you make that decision as a club? Okay, fine. But you need to sit with him now and you need to ask him what's going to happen next season. What's going to happen with players like Sule and all those things? Do you want him in the team, Barnechea? Because then you can make decisions. Are you going to move away from a back um, three? Because, okay, then we can move on, maybe defender, but we need to assign fullbacks, and maybe Yildiz can play in that position. We don't need to buy him, and maybe we can cash in on Barnechea or Nicolucci and we keep one. Like, things need to be answered now. And that's my only fear, that these things are not being discussed at this moment in time. I don't think we're going to change formation, by the way. I think we can play in a different setup with the players we have, but it's mid-season. It's just not going to happen. Like, Allegri's not going to turn up to training January the 1st and tell the guys, you know what? Forget what we did the past 4 months. Yildiz, you're going to play behind Chiesa and Vlahovic, back four, Rabiot. Like, it's just not going to happen. We also need to be realistic with that aspect. It's not going to happen.
And that's
Maybe in
why I
certain games you
say
can switch it up,
that
but
this is why I
it's not going
say
to happen.
the only logical thing, because it's a minor change, would be the
It's
two-man
quality.
pivot with one advanced player, because you're technically doing that right now as it is with one of your Metsalas. It was usually Miretti whenever he was in there, and he would go up to try and be that support piece. Rabiot does it at times. Sometimes he's used to base out. It's kind of changed depending on who else was out there. But that's the most natural change. If I'm looking at Yildiz and how you integrate him more, he's the natural substitute for Chiesa. He really is. We don't need
Really?
we don't need two of these strikers out there. We don't need to play Vlahovic and Milik, or Vlahovic and
Oh
Keane,
yeah,
or Keane
I
and
agree with
Milik.
that.
You keep one of those versatile guys out there that has vision, that can play in that manner. If you're not going to switch to a two-man pivot with one advanced player, where I would use Yildiz and try him behind Vlahovic and Chiesa, if you're not going to do that, then he is your substitute for Chiesa, and he should be the substitute for Chiesa. Vlahovic, Milik, and Keane, they can rotate amongst that other role, because none of them have been shining to a degree where we need to play two out of those three at all times.
Yeah, we never, even if they shine like that. That
Yeah.
shouldn't like
So for
against
me,
Frosinone, we pulled Yildiz instead of Milik, and at the end, people can say, "Oh, the sub worked. Allegri was right." No, Allegri was right to put in Vlahovic. That was the obvious choice, but you shouldn't have kept on Milik. We didn't win that game because Milik stayed on that pitch. We won because Vlahovic was Vlahovic. However, when you said like he's a natural substitute to Chiesa, I agree. But when I watch Yildiz play, and I've actually watched him live, funny enough, over here when he was playing in the youth league against a gang, he reminds me of Dybala a little bit in terms of he can just wander around on the pitch, drop in deep, pick up the ball, flick it really quickly, move on, skip past a player, hold on to the ball. Like he dictates tempo. He's very clean. He reminded me of, even against Frosinone, I was like, that reminded me of how Dybala played. Obviously, he's not Dybala yet. I'm not saying that, but that could be a very good option as well, or like a good use of him. But like you said, he's not going to change, and maybe a double pivot, but even that I don't see happening. So he is going to be the substitute to Chiesa, and we never should be seeing Vlahovic with Milik, or Keane with Milik, or Keane with Vlahovic, whatever. Pick your poison at this point, because I've not once seen this season and I was like, okay, this is what we need. Not once. It's more of the same. I don't get it. By the way, like if you're down a goal and you just like Milik, Vlahovic, get up there, and you're just hoofing that ball, I'm like, okay, fine. But
yeah.
from the start, I not once did I look at it and I was like, you know what, that's a solution we should be, looking for more often, because it, like you said, like they're not playing well, all three of them, like, or playing up to the levels they should. I can even make the debate. I don't think even Chiesa is, by the way. However, Chiesa can make it something happen out of nowhere, and probably Yildiz holds that aspect as well. They can make things happen on their own. I don't think Vlahovic can. I don't think Keane can. Maybe, and definitely not Milik. Like they need service. Like they're different players. So playing with two of them is overkill in my opinion. Especially if you look at our wingbacks. How they're playing. Kostic not playing well. If McKennie plays, you put that cross in, but like it's not consistent threat from that side. And we are, I don't know, he's a new signing for January, I guess, because I've not seen enough of him as well. So I agree with that thing. If it's
My
Chiesa or Milik, or
my
Yildiz.
11 I would like to see. This is what I would like to see, because I can't truly say it's my ideal 11 because I haven't seen some of the other alternatives that I would probably
Yeah,
try to get a little more influence out of the midfield. But my was something I would like to see, which I know I'll probably never, but I'm going to share it anyways. Be Szczesny, be Gatti, Bremer, Rugani. It would be McKennie as your right wing back. For me, Kostic needs to sit. Like he needs to sit. I respect the hell out of the work rate, the fight, the defensive battles, but I would play Cambiasso on the left. Even though he's doing good on the right, I would put him on the left. In the middle, as I've been talking about, I'd have Rabiot, Locatelli, and I would have take your pick of Miretti or Yildiz behind Chiesa and Vlahovic. And it is something I would honestly try with the group we have that is not a massive change from what we currently have, just to see. Because the forwards need a little bit more support. Trying to pull someone out of the midfield from a Mitsala role isn't quite enough. And it also doesn't support the flanks enough. Base it out with Rabiot. Use the best of his attributes. Locatelli, his best was as a two-man pivot with Sassuolo.
yep.
Play him as a two-man pivot midfielder. And McKennie's his best at right wing back. Cambiasso's versatile, but he does well with Chiesa on the left side that we never went to again. Go back to that. And all the while, you mix in Yildiz as this free-flowing player, because I see that too. And I see his vision and I see his technical ability. And when I saw him play, when I was watching him, obviously keeping tabs, Primavera, next gen, whatnot, he can literally play. If you're playing like a 4-2-3-1, he could play right across those three for me. He could play as your 10, he could play as your left wing, he could play as your right wing. For me, he could play right across the top, just not out and out striker. And some would even argue that. For me, no. But that is my ideal 11 with something I would try for Juventus. What is your ideal 11 that you would like to see?
Oh, um, oh, it's kind of the same, but it's gonna be a back four, and it's gonna be Cambiasso on the left. I'm gonna put, and it's probably not gonna work, but I'm gonna put Weah on the right hand side. I'm gonna play Gatti and Bremer, Chesney, obviously, and then it's where it gets tricky, in my opinion. But I will go, and that's going off at the start of the season, not now. I would have played Rabiot, Locatelli, and Rabiot, Locatelli. Excuse me. Obviously, I had other options out there, but that's not going to happen. So Rabiot, Locatelli, and then McKennie. So that's a three-man midfield. I would still stick with that at this moment in time. And then up top, I will have Chiesa and Vlahovic. And then behind, I have Miretti. But it's not going to happen. Like, it's way too much. It's overkill. It's overkill. To do that now is just an absolutely no-go.
We can't be
It's
changing.
it's not going to happen. Like, it's
Yeah.
too drastic. I don't know if it's going to work. If you're going to see changes, it's going to happen the first week. If it doesn't happen the first week, when you play Sanitana twice at home, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's fair to say. If you don't see it at Sanitana on Thursday and on Sunday, then nothing is going to happen, by the way.
I want to talk about Bremer real quick before we get to the last one, which will be our thoughts on this Roma match coming up. big one. Bremer, obviously, we extend his contract to 2028. About a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we had a crazy hot take that there was a few agreeing with it, saying that he hasn't lived up to what they believed he would be for Juventus. I disagree. I think he's a stud. But many say they don't believe he could play in a back four, and that's a big knock to him. You put him in your ideal for, obviously, he's our best center back by a long shot. I actually have no fears in playing him in a back four either, but I just want to get your thoughts, like, with him in a back four and whatnot. Are there concerns there for you or no concerns?
The concern is he's used to playing a back three, and he himself said he's better in a back three. That's maybe the concern because it came out of his own mouth. I think that's what everybody's basing it on, if I'm being honest. It's adjustment in the back four. As somebody told me, it's not. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's completely different to play. We're not going into details because still need to talk about Roma, but there is a difference. But I believe that he has quality enough to be just fine in a back four. It might take some time, adjustment period, because he's used to something, but that's with everything. Like, that's what goes with every single player, but he's been so good, like, defensively he's so good that I will think he will be just fine. I'm pretty sure he will be just fine. I think the concern is because he said it himself, and he didn't say, I stink in a back four. He said, I play in a back three for such a long time, and he even added, I'm better on the left hand side on the back three, if that makes any sense. But now he plays essentially, but whatever. That maybe people are concerned, but how many players has changed formation? How many players flipped their career around flipped? It doesn't need to flip his career around, but how many players just adapted to a new position? If you're good enough, you will survive, and I think he's good enough, so he will survive in a back four.
I told everyone it's going to be interesting because he's literally on the verge with the Brazilian national side, to where some of these matches are going to come up. They've always been back four setup team, and that's where we'll really start to see if he can do that and make. And what's going to be interesting is he's going to be making that switch with us, because back three with us and then back four with them. He's right on the cusp there for starting to get some minutes, friendlies and whatnot. I would expect him to start getting minutes, but that's going to be interesting to see. I personally have zero fears with this guy going in back four, anything like that. I think he's an absolute stud. I love the piece of business there, bringing the amortization down a little over $2 million per year. It's all good. The salary stays the same, and like I said, $41 million all in. And at the end of the day, he's already well worth that. So it's all good there and all gravy with Bremer. Now, tomorrow, Roma. I know you did a preview right before you jumped on with me. How do you feel about this game? What do you think is going to go down? And if you feel like it, drop a prediction on us.
I was more confident a week ago because I talked a lot of smack on my channel. I had a lot of Roma fans in the comments. I'm still pissed that we didn't beat them last season. I'm still pissed about that, and I will be absolutely. I will go wild if we don't beat this Roma side. And it's not to disrespect him, but we will play Roma away from home, Lazio, Inter, Napoli. You need to beat them. Now, Inter failed to win. You absolutely need to beat them. Maybe it's a good thing because now it's pressure on the club, on the players. Inter play, they drop point. It's up to you guys. There is pressure. Like, they can play it down. Allegri can play it down. Big time pressure because the players believe in the title. They said so. So there is pressure. Funnily enough, I think, and people might say, what? I think it's going to be an open game. I think Roma will create chances. I think we will create chances. And I think that we're going to win it. I said, what did my prediction say? I think I said 2-1. I think Vlahovic is going to score. He will need to have a big game. I need to have a big game with Vlahovic. I talk about chances, creation. I stick with that stand because he missed that against Frosinone, and everybody was like, oh my God. He got two others. He put him away. One was offside, but that's what I've always said. Strikers will miss chances. If you look at Haaland, ridiculous what he missed this season. But he put away the same amount because he created the double amount. Same pace, just more chances. However, if it's going to be a game tomorrow, and I don't think it's going to be that type of game where only one chance will fall to him or Chiesa or wherever, they need to put it away tomorrow. There's no ifs and buts. You need to put it away because there's a pressure game considering the league standing. So I think we're going to win. But at the start of the week, I was like, it's going to be 3-0. And we're just going to cakewalk it, a bit like Lazio at home, which we always do. I don't think it's going to be a typical Mourinho setup because I don't think that Roma team is a typical Mourinho team. I don't think they can sit back. If they sit back, we will win that game just by default, in my opinion. I don't think they have the quality enough to just sit back. Dybala is fit. A lot of people are scared about that. I don't think we should be really worried. I don't want to jinx it, but we just need to look at our own team and our own strengths, and I think we should be fine tomorrow. There's I cannot dress it up. If we don't win tomorrow, I cannot dress it up. Oh, it's still 4 points. You need to win tomorrow. You absolutely need to. This is it now. This is it for the players, but also for Allegri. This is it. Because you can talk about top 4 and all those things. We're 10 points clear of top 4. Like, you're gonna get top 4. If you don't get top 4, it's it's sackable at this point. Like, we need to be honest. So you're gonna get top 4. You can put that out there. The players already told us they're thinking about the title. So you can say it every week. The players will come out even before you speak post game, and they speak about the title. And then Allegri goes out saying, "I don't want to hear that word." And I'm like, Gatti just told us like 1 minute ago in front of the camera. He spoke about it. Rabiot, we know the players do believe in that. It's up to him now tomorrow to get it over the line. It's also on him. Like, it's pressure on him because this is the first time since he came back that we are in a real potential title race. And he has the opportunity to, how do you want to say that? Punch back at Inter and tell them, you know what, you slipped up. We took advantage of it. Back to you now in the new year. You cannot slip up because we will be here. That's the message we can send, and he should send tomorrow to Inter, that if you mess up, we will capitalize on it. So you better bring your A game every single week because we will be here. That's what that game represents today or tomorrow, depending on when this video comes out. So pressure. I think it's the first time we play a high pressure game, since, 3 years now. Besides a cup final, this is the high pressure game now. It really is.
The thing with Roma for me is they are very, very unconvincing for where they are. They had a streak there of quite a few points over 8 games, pulled them right back into the mix there after one of the worst starts. It might have been their worst start historically for Roma, definitely for Mourinho. But the thing is this is going to be one of those games where I hope I'm not disappointed in the fact that if I look pound for pound, player for player, this is a team we should be able to control the play against. If I'm looking at their midfield, their back line, I am very confident we should be able to give them issues. We want to talk about, execution. I've been so critical on these players for executing. It's not just the big chances missed, which is brutal. It's even getting an opportunity. The amount of times we stumble in key passes, critical moments, you have to dial it in. You have to execute. It's going to be interesting to see a shift. We've been playing ahead of Inter for quite some time now and trying to set the tone and trying to put that pressure on them. This is going to be that moment where now we've watched them stumble and now we can shift it. And I want to see that approach. I want to see that attitude where we are going to go after and get this and make that statement that, like you said, if you slip up, we're right here. Let's get it done. I want to see that. I want to be able to see that through the approach, through the attitude. I actually personally think Roma is not going to open up a lot. I actually feel that they are going to be very, very compact, and I think they're going to wait, and I think they're going to pick and choose. If I have to guess, I think they're going to want to try to get Lukaku running at our back line.
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
Try to absorb and then launch, similar to what Napoli tried to do with Osimhen, which did create a few issues here and there. I don't think it's going to be a wide open game, but I do ultimately like us coming out with a victory. I
I
know
have
people will say we're not convincing, and I get it. Obviously, I think there's games, a lot of games though, where we should have been comfortably in better leads and seen those games out better. Again, I stand by what I said earlier in the show. I don't think we're far off. And I feel like if certain guys get it rolling, like if Chiesa and Vlahovic weren't interrupted with injuries and whatnot, would they have kept that same pace they were rolling at the start of the year? Maybe. Nothing's changed as far as the shots we've generated, the chances we generated, like all that stayed the same. They were rolling at the start of the year. They got interrupted. There's nothing stopping these guys from getting it back to where it was before. The positions haven't changed. Nothing has changed. That's why when we talk about, and everyone's, in my opinion, overanalyzing, there's nothing stopping these guys from getting it going again. And I think we're right there. Tomorrow could be a major step for them, all their mentalities, and moving forward. And I think we're going to get a very strong performance from Juve, and I could see us winning 3-1. I could see it being a 3-1 game.
just to bring it up because Acerbi spoke just a minute ago, and if you wanted to prove that the pressure is on, that interview, they're scared. They're scared because he said, I hear all these talks about we need to win the title, but I want everybody to know and remind people that Juve paid 200 million for Vlahovic and Bremer and Chiesa while we are signing free agents in the summer. It's like we switched a lot of players this season, and a lot of champions left. I think people are forgetting it. The pressure is on. They feel the pressure. I think this is a state. Like if I'm an Inter fan, that's a statement I don't want to hear. Because if I'm an Inter fan, I will be recording a video now and I will be calling out Acerbi because that's a weak statement. That's very weak. You know, you just didn't beat Genoa and you come out saying, hey, 2 years ago you paid money for Chiesa. Like what's the like? Okay, we did pay 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years. I don't know. Like it's been a while. Like that's a very crazy statement to
They
me.
have a massive inferiority complex when it comes to Juventus, man. It's there. It's a real thing. Their true fans know it too. They just don't want to admit it. But some of them even do. Even some of the big Inter fans out there on social media and everything know it, and they know it's true. I love it personally. We're rent-free in their heads. And the pressure, let's get that victory and let's put it on. That statement is amazing. And remember earlier, was it just yesterday they reported about the comments behind the scenes are driving them nuts because we keep pushing. I love it, man. That's hilarious. But to me, it's music to my ears, and it's another small sign that we're starting to get back where we need to be, because as soon as we're up there and we're in the mix, they go crazy. They go crazy, and I'm here for every second of it, man.
Even last week, Marotta kind of touched on it, saying, Allegri's pushing the title, whatever, but like they are the favorites. I'm like, no, we're not. Everybody knows that. Like you do shows with Anthony, he knows they are the favorite. Like the pressure is on for them. They are the favorites. Everybody, like that's like I don't know. That's like Bayern Munich coming out saying we're not the favorites for the title. Like, yes, you are. You won it 11 times in a row. You are the clear-cut favorites. Like, everybody knows that. But that's a statement. If I were an Inter fan, I would and we didn't beat Genoa, I would be like, oh my God, just shut up. Like, don't say that. You can not even think that, but don't say that publicly because that's crazy. Like, the fact that he knows how much we paid for these players years ago is kind of weird. Like it's kind of weird in my opinion, and that's not what you want to hear if you were an Inter fan. As a Juve fan, I'm like, hey man, we potentially don't need to win every single game because it feels like you're ready to crumble yourself here. If you're thinking that while you're playing, like that's not good. I think
I love it, man. I love it.
That's a very strange statement to make after a game to end up to wrap up the year as well. That's telling Inter fan this is it.
They were trying for a record for them, tying their historic best for a year. I think it was going for 40 victories in a calendar year. Oh, nice that they fell short. So they fell short, but I love it when they just can't get us out of their heads and we live there rent free. Let's get the job done tomorrow. Take care of business and get that gap to 2 points and just keep ramping up that pressure. I love every second of it. That wraps up the show. Ale, always an absolute pleasure having you on. You guys are going to be watching this. I'm going to be putting it out very quickly after recording. And then again, tomorrow morning, Match Day Live, I'll be doing a watch along. Big game. Let's take it to Roma. You guys, again, we share large majority of the community. The next one will be on the Bianconeri Zone channel. We're trying to make these ones and stick to our calendars, okay, at least once, every 3-4 weeks. We've been doing it good now for about 3 in a row. Let's keep her going. Everybody always loves it, and we love the positive feedback. We're going to keep these things rolling. Again, if you're not already subscribed to Bianconeri Zone, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Head over there, subscribe to their channel, and show some love to these guys doing some great stuff. Ale, I'm going to give you the mic to wrap things up. Say your final goodbye, and then we're off, brother.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Again, next show on our channel, my channel, Bianconeri Zone. Hopefully a win, because it's New Year's Eve the next day, and it's New Year the following day, basically. I don't want to get into the new year with we didn't beat Roma. I think nobody wants that. So hopefully with some positive news. Happy New Year in advance to everybody who's watching, and hopefully the new year brings a new title, because it feels like ages now, but it isn't ages, but it feels, because we won 9 in a row, it feels like so long, but who knows?
Let's see what 2024 has to hold for Juventus. All right, everybody. Again, big thank you to Ale. Check out their channel, subscribe, and as always, no matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juve. Let those chihuahuas keep talking. We're living rent-free, baby. Ciao tutti.
Yeah.